wanted to talk a little bit about the main character of Sonic Riptide, Jesse Clemmons, who was 24 at the time the story starts in late 2010. First, he had lost his wife when she separated from him and started going with Iron Axe lead vocalist Larry Henderson. And then he was kicked out of the band, which was a member of ever since his high school days, which was Red Alert, which they eventually changed their name to Molgeneer and replaced him with another keyboardist guitarist named Steve Grissom, who wasn't as good as he is, but they prefer him better because Jesse did not compromise his personal beliefs. He didn't believe in the rock star lifestyle. The drugging, the partying, the smoking, the sleeping around with women. He stayed faithful to his wife, stayed faithful to his convictions, and he wound up being tossed out of the band because of it. At the time of the story, he had just gotten word that he was being kicked out of the band, and that brought him, and he started experiencing depression after that. Jesse Clemmons had been classically trained and was influenced heavily by classic rock by one of his uncles. He especially developed a love for classical music and the genre of progressive rock, prog rock for short. Groups like Yes, the Moody Blues, King Crimson, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And it's not very popular with the youth in 2010. That's for sure. So he was ostracized because of it. And at one time, in their last album together, he wanted to have a symphony orchestra, which the band was dead set against. So in the last few years, there was tension between Jesse Clemmons and the other members of his band, Red Alert. Because he didn't live the lifestyle, the rock star lifestyle that were, and of course there were some philosophical differences. He was a born again Christian, and tried to live according to it, and not sing about going to bed with women or partying or drinking or junk like that. And he would not perform any of the songs that the other band members had written that glorify the stuff, as it went against his convictions, and so there was tension. And for some reason he didn't know why, but his wife Donna divorced him, threw him out of the house, and started going with the lead vocalist of the heavy metal band Iron Axe. And after he was kicked out of the band, he fell into a depression. He hired a new agent, and he managed to get work. He started producing. He learned producing during his days with Red Alert. And so he had the tools necessary to produce, and he composed songs. And in the story, before the beginning of the story, he had a chance meeting during Red Alert's visit to England with Mike Pinder of the Moody Blues, legendary keyboardist Mike Pinder. And Mike Pinder introduced Jesse Clemmons to the Mellotron, and he fell in love with the Mellotron. And Mike Pinder told him about the problems dealing with the Mellotron, with the tapes breaking and the heads going bad and different things like that, but he still loved the Mellotron. And at the time I started the story, I didn't know that the Mellotron people have developed a digital Mellotron, and I suggested that in the novel at the beginning I was writing, because I didn't know at the time that they had a digital Mellotron, and I eventually incorporated it into the story later on. He purchases a Mellotron and a digital Mellotron, and it reflects my love for the instrument. And I know there are problems with it, as I mentioned, the tapes breaking in it, the motor going bad and stuff like that, but I love the sound that was used during the years of Yes and the Moody Blues, King Crimson, and the keyboardist who employed the mellotron. It was even employed by John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin. And like their album Houses of the Holy and Physical Graffiti, especially on the song Kashmir from Physical Graffiti and the Rain song from Houses of the Holy. But Jesse fell in love with the mellotron and wanted to use it on his own solo album, which he had planned to do over the time he was producing for other acts. He'd written songs and lent it to other acts, and eventually his manager told him that he had a job with that he was hired to produce an album for Moody Blues influenced group called Octave Blues, and he produced for them, and he got ridiculed for that, for those that didn't know him. And eventually he returned later on a second trip to England, produced for another Moody Blues influenced group called Seventh Soldier. And it was his time in England, his second trip to England producing for Seventh Soldier, and he met Rosangela Ferreira, who happens to be a world famous diva from Brazil. And like Jesse, she didn't compromise, and somehow she was loved for music because of it, because she didn't sing about drinking or drugging or sleeping around. She sang about true love. And when Jesse first saw Rosangela at the beginning of the novel, he saw her during an interview in a morning show, and he felt that, and he loved the way she sung, but he felt that he would never meet her. And he thought, besides, what would she think of a nobody like me? But eventually they do meet and fall in love, and eventually get married. But I'm not going to spoil it too much. But talking about Jesse, he did it for the love of the music. He loved the music. And there was part of him that wanted to be famous too, but he mainly did it for the love of the music, because he loved the music, he cared about the music, and that's very absent in today's music. People, the artists out there, simply doing it for the love of the music. Many of them just do it for the love of money or whatever. But in the story, Jesse Clemmons cared about the music, and he did it simply for the love of the music. It was something he enjoyed doing, which I feel is lacking in music today.